Today we're going to review the top 4 infantry pairs in the new Sargon the Great and Tariq ibn Ziyad meta. Whether you're fielding 1, 2, or even 3 infantry marches, these are going to be the combinations that help you get crazy good trades. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. And every time new commanders land in game, I test with the expertise commanders to try to give you the very best guidance around which combos to use. So in this video, we're going to do the following things. First and foremost, I'm going to give you the top 4. These are the best of the best infantry pairs and talents that I would recommend using with these commanders. From there, I'm going to give you a bunch of combinations that are both honorable mentions and combos you use to kind of build up to that point as you're still working on your collection if you're newer to the game. I'll even give you a little bit of an investment order for newer players. And of course, I'm going to give you the very best combos to use if you're bringing 1, 2, or 3 infantry marches to the field, so that regardless of how many infantry combos you use, you can freaking smash. And yes, infantry are my specialty. That's my focus on 2 of my accounts because I'm basically insane. So I know a lot about infantry commanders and have a lot of experience. And there's always timestamps in my videos, by the way. So jump to the part you're interested in. If you know something already and you just want to skip, feel free to skip. At the end, I'll even give you some equipment recommendations that's mainly geared towards newer players to the game who haven't yet figured out exactly how they want to allocate their gear. So let's get started with the top 4. And number 4 on my list, by the way, is a commander pairing you could probably swap out with some of the other honorable mentions I'll give you later on. But I'm going to give number 4 overall to Skippy Honda. That's Scipio Africanus with Honda Tarakatsu. Now, this combo is extremely strong because Skippy has multiple abilities that depend on damage factors, okay? He's got big area of effect damage. He's got damage over time. He's got a shield that is based also on a damage factor. And all of these factor-based skills basically scale up with the number of troops you have. So when you use a commander like Honda Tarakatsu, who gives you more troop capacity and also increases your skill damage and reduces damage taken, really magical things happen. This combo works better than you think it would based on reading their kits, and I've just been extremely happy with how it's performed, and I have used it extensively. If you're using Skippy as the primary in the open field, this is the talent build you use. It's the only one you need to know. It is very intentional that we have 2 points over here, by the way. This has to do with the maximum number of rage that can be gained in any one turn. That number is 220. And so putting an extra point in here might give you some value sometimes. But I use it without that 1 point and allocate that elsewhere, okay? From here, we've got to go to combo number 3. And of course you knew that Guan Yu was going to be all over this list, and he is. And I'm going to pair Guan Yu with Sargon the Great as the number 3 combo. Now, the reason that this combo works is in part because Sargon has a lot of defensive stats and a lot of punch. And although I don't think this is the best Sargon combo you can make, there's even synergy between the skills of Sargon, which do really just a ton of skill damage, and making the target take more skill damage with a debuff, and also making it so that you get more stacks of this debuff whenever you do skill damage. All that to say, the 4th skill on Guan Yu will even give you more stacks of that debuff with Sargon when you pair them together. So these two work together really well, and that is also because Sargon is a commander that enhances damage dealt. He's got an ability over here that's kind of like a little Ring of Doom. It's a mini Ring of Doom, increasing damage dealt periodically, and also you get an infantry damage bonus. Yes, this combo works really, really well. No, it's not the combo I personally will be using in the field, but it's still really strong. And I'll share with you a couple other combos in just a second that I do use instead. However, if you are going to use Guan, this is a build that I found works really, really well. I have floated between just a number of builds, by the way. for the field. I've used this build in the field and been very happy with it. I've used this build in the field and been very happy with it. But these days, especially if you're pairing with Sargon the Great, I'm all about getting as much rage as you can. People hate on Feral Nature, indicating that sometimes it gives you excess rage that gives you no value, because again, the cap on rage in any one turn is 220. But with that said, on the turns where you don't cap on rage and you have this trigger, man, it's just so powerful that it offsets the fact that sometimes it gives you no value whatsoever, okay? Very happy with how this build is working. This is what I'm using currently in the field and in Canyon, which brings us to the number 2 infantry pair. That is Sargon the Great primary with Skippy secondary. I mean, of course, you take the 2 newest infantry commanders that are designed for the open field. You pair them together, and it's going to do really well. Super high skill damage, tons of damage factor abilities, and even though, strangely, the damage over time from Skippy doesn't give you stacks of the skill damage taken debuff, odd, from Sargon the Great, even though that synergy is not there, it doesn't matter. Pair Skippy with basically any infantry commander, and they are elevated. And the damage that Sargon does, and his just overall kit is so powerful that, yeah, this I would say is the number 2 combo. We get a look at the talents. Here's a build that I have been using for rallying. I paused for a second because I was like, wait a minute. I have these talents over here, and that's because they're giving me stats. If I were doing this for field specifically, you really want the march speed. Right over here, you need these 2 points. And if you wanted to flip this combo around and use the Skippy as the primary, that would be fine. I think that is super reasonable to use Skippy primary, Sargon secondary. The reason you would do that is if you say, hey, I'm taking a lot of skill damage in the field over here, Skippy reduces skill damage taken from the support tree. So that would be a reasonable swap out. Either way you run this combo, it's going to do extremely well in the field. And the best combo, in my estimation, is the same combo I recommended in a video just about 8 months ago, although this is pretty close with number 2. Some people will tell you this combo should be switched in terms of which one is 1 and which one is 2, but I think Guan Skippy is still the number 1 combo. And the reason I think that's the case is that this area of effect debuff from Guan silencing targets is insane. Guan Yu has been one of the very best legendary commander sculpture investments since the beginning of the game. Up there with Esong, Alexander the Great, and you've got Guan Yu. All 3 of those are among the very best, longest lasting sculpture investments in Rise of Kingdoms history. And I've been playing this game at the time of this recording for over 4.5 years now, just about. So that's definitely saying something. Guan Yu has no tankiness really whatsoever, and Skippy brings just enough to get the job done. Shielding also has synergy with Guan. Really strong combo. We've already reviewed the talents here. But you may be thinking, Chisgule, bro, I don't have all these commanders. Surely there's something on the way to those pairings that's still really good. And absolutely that is true. If you have Guan Yu, there are multiple runner-up combos that are honorable mentions. Guan with Alexander the Great. Guan with Leonidas. These are both great combos, and people hate on Leonidas. It's trendy to hate on Leonidas, but the people who use him know he's amazing. I am among those people, and I have been couldn't be happier with how Guan and Leo trades, okay? For a combo that was made available, I don't know, was it 2019 or whatever they came out? Yeah, this combo's been great. That said, don't invest in Leo now. If you have him, though, you can use him. Up also, as runner-up combos here, honorable mentions, is Skippy with Alexander the Great. Whew! Skippy with Alex is really strong. Most people don't have all these, newer commanders like Honda or Sargon. So they use Skippy and Alex. Great combo. I don't think it's as good as the ones I mentioned in the top 4, but still really exceptional. Also, you could run Skippy with CJ is extremely good. You could run Skippy with Tariq ibn Ziyad, and that combo does really well. I made a dedicated video about this commander, though, saying, hey, don't max him for field. You max him because you're a rally lead, and when you have him for that, you use him in the field. In my opinion, doesn't mean I'm necessarily right. Okay, Also, Trajan with Skippy is really good. Now, let me tell you, I get a lot of flack for saying use Trajan with Skippy Africanus. But here's the thing. I can take a commander that is doing huge debuffs to the team and make his March trade hugely positive by using Skippy. I don't know what's not to love there. I'm trading positive. I'm buffing like crazy. Yeah, it's a huge win. The combo's great. Not a top 4, right? But it's still really good. In terms of Sargon combos that are runner-up, that don't make the very best of the best, you've got combos like Sargon and Alex, Sargon and CJ, Sargon and Tariq ibn Ziyad. There's actually a lot of these. By the way, if you're getting value from this video, do me a huge favor and throw a like on the video. It supports the channel tremendously, and consider subscribing so you get more videos just like this one in your YouTube feed every single day. All of these combos, theoretically, you could contest, should maybe be number 4 on my list, okay? But the following combos are more beginner combos. Combos that you use on your way to any of these ones that I've recommended. That includes combos like Skippy with Mehmed is a little bit more of a beginner combo, right? You weave in the Mehmed, which is kind of like a worse Honda Tadakatsu, until you maybe get Honda or get some other commander. You could use Charles, okay? Charles Martel with Skippy is actually a fine combo. Charles with Herald is a fine combo. Alex with Herald, or really Herald primary with Alex, is a fine combo. Herald with Honda Tadakatsu is a combo you could use. Even Skippy with Honda Tadakatsu is a combo you could use. And you'll notice there's a bunch of commanders where you're like, but Chisgule, people say Pakal is so good in the field. Bro, no. Just stop, man. It slays me. Pakal is for one thing, okay? For rallying. And you can use him to cheeseburger if you're in a situation where you're locked down in your city and you're completely surrounded, you pop out of your city, you get some value. He's fine for that, okay? So I guess that's 2 things. But he's not a general fielding commander because I don't know, what is he? He has a little bit of march speed, maybe? Does he even have march speed? I guess a little bit. Yeah, 15. But he doesn't have debuffs. He doesn't have big buffs. Like, he's not doing the sorts of things a good open field commander does. He has no area of effect damage. This is not a commander you get for the open field, in my opinion. This, of course, brings us to the part where I talk about what pairs you should use if you're bringing 1, 2, or 3 infantry marches to the open field. We're going to use Tier Maker to show you these 3 pairings. If you're bringing 1 pair, or if you bring 2 pairs or 3 pairs. So if you're just bringing 1 pair to the open field in Rise of Kingdoms, I think the easy answer is to bring the best pair I was recommending, and that is Guan with Skippy. 1 pair? Use that. Easy choice. Okay? Most people who've been around the Season of Conquest for a while have the Guan, and the Skippy is something you really should be working on if you haven't already. I think Skippy is still the best commander in the open field at the time of this recording. If you're moving to 2 pairs, I actually think you need to split these 2 commanders. And the way that I would run this is I would bring Sargon and pair it with Skippy, use Sargon as the primary. And then, man, for Guan, you have so many choices for who you use as your secondary. I personally will be using Honda. That said, you also could use Leo. Leo's really awesome, so that's Guan Leo. You also could use Guan Alex. My Ark of Osiris team would say, bro, don't you dare bring Leo in an Ark match because he has no march speed, and because they would say he sucks because he doesn't have big debuffs like Alexander the Great does. Alexander the Great, by the way, has seen a huge resurgence in interest because of his 4th skill. It won't look like he's doing much in his report, but his 4th skill, making 3 targets take more damage, is huge, okay? And from here, there is another commander you could pair, okay, that's very popular, CJ, Guan CJ, if you had CJ, and I know just most people don't and shouldn't go invest in him at this point. Any of those commanders will be a fine way to run the 2 best infantry pairs you could run in combination with each other. Really, really solid. Now, if you're running 3 combos, especially if you're running 6 or more marches, I think the answer is to start using Trajan. And as I mentioned earlier, Trajan Skippy is the jam. Really powerful. From there, I would bring in a commander like Tariq ibn Ziyad to pair with Sargon. And then for Guan, you have all those other options. Easy choices here for who you could pair with Guan, because, I mean, you probably have an Alexander the Great sitting around. And I have been advising so many people to bring Alexander the Great back into the mix as they try to figure out how they're going to do their 3 marches. And, look, if you don't have a Skippy, you could do Ethelfled. I personally use Trajan Ethelfled on my restart account. That's my smaller account that's in the Season of Conquest because, I put that in quotes because it's really powerful now. It's got some crazy combos. So that is how I would run the best possible 3 infantry pairs that you would use all at the same time. But if you're newer to the game and you're wondering, how the hell do I even get to this point? My recommendation for you, and I'll explain this very briefly, is that you either, in the early game, max Esong, then max Alexander the Great, and then Horde to be able to invest in commanders from the Season of Conquest, or you either skip Esong or skip Alexander the Great, or if you're crazy and don't mind having a very low-ish contribution in the early game, skip them both, save all your sculptures for Season of Conquest to invest in these far superior commanders. Now, that said, I think Esong is still a commander that most people should be using, as is Alexander the Great. So pick at least one of those to invest in the early game to give yourself at least one march that is very fun and very powerful. My opinion. But let's jump in game just to review very briefly the sort of equipment that I think you should hunt for. P.S. One thing I'll add about the formation system, which at the time of this recording is not yet in every kingdom, is that I think you should just use the wedge formation with every single infantry combo I've recommended. That's the skill damage formation. It's extremely strong, and the end tier, the upper end of the inscriptions are just really, really strong for skill damage combos. So wedge formation, I think, is what you use. But if you want more information about formations and the formation system, card will be up in the top for that video. For those wondering what I think the best of the best looks like, and I recognize how unrelatable this is the best possible infantry set. Ring and horn for your accessories. Go for the 2-piece bonus for the infantry set on the gloves and the boots. That is to give you defensive stats. I also highly value the defensive stats for trade quality in the field. So there's your Hope Cloak and Eternal Knight. From there, we're looking at the KVK helmet and also the KVK weapon. Now, that's insane. But I will say, one thing that if you're looking at endgame gear and wondering why not the full set, Chisgule, well, trust me, I've used it. Here it is. And I find that the trade quality is definitely worse. But my ARC team strongly encouraged me to move all in on an attack-based set because attack ends fights faster. So yeah, if you value high-end performance in Ark of Osiris, then the full set is really good. And the 4-piece bonus for infantry on this set is March Speed, which infantry desperately need. But I think most people probably ought to focus more on getting value from trades in the open field. And if you're looking for much more budget ways to get great open field results, let me show you my restart account, which is far more relatable. This is my restart account, and as I mentioned, it's pretty damn stacked at this point, and I do plan to max Sargon to add to the collection, but first, I've just been waiting to make a video to showcase 555 versus 5551 Sargon, because people have been talking about that and saying, oh, don't unlock the 4th skill on Sargon, which I think you should. But I'll prove it to you, and I plan to do that in a future video. So that said, this account's pretty damn stacked. And in terms of equipment, you can see I really put my money where my mouth is here. For my own account, I follow my own advice. Now, one of the things that I've done is that for the weapon, I just stick with the blue shield. Such high value, lasts a very long time. And I've stuck with the epic pants. Such high value, lasts for a long time. For those that are newer to the game, health is your #1 priority, then defense, then attack. This just has to do with the way technology works in KVK and also Alliance technology. I've explained this way more in depth in other videos. I'll remind you of that video at the very end, but if you wanted to watch it right now, card will be up in the top explaining why health is what you should focus on. So these 2 pieces of equipment, I'm just leaving, and I'm going to keep leaving it for a very long time while I upgrade pieces that I think are more important to upgrade. For example, The chess piece over here for infantry is one I really want to upgrade away from. That is because on the Hope Cloak, I can move into defense. So of course I would get more stats and switch from attack to defense. Hell yeah. I want to go do that. I've done that twice. I have 2 of them. Okay. And it's on my short list to go do a 3rd. But I've been prioritizing my accessories recently. Okay. Because I'd really like to get rid of some of these, bringing in another horn. I'd like to make another ring. Accessories are very high material costs. So that takes a really long time. And you can see that the epic gloves and the epic boots are fine and will last you for a very long time. But if you can upgrade to that 2-piece set bonus from the infantry set, 3% defense is really nice. And I did make this shield, which I'm not saying I regret making this shield, because at the time I had migrated back to KVK Season 2 with my kingdom that I'd been with since the beginning of my playing this particular account. So I have no regrets, because at the time I, didn't have much else that I could make, and I didn't have the patterns and materials to do anything else. But I mean, this is an upgrade I honestly could have skipped. I would still say that this shield is still the way to go, and you could just get value with that for a really long time. And, if I could have my materials back, 100% of them, to go put into an accessory, yeah, I mean, that would be way, way, way better. So upgrade the weapon last. Also, I want to call your attention for infantry to wind scars. You really need the march speed, and this is really solid. It's kind of tragic I haven't talented this sooner. For a while, I was using it on my Trajan, but I recently got a War Drums to try to test with it. So now going and talenting the other one for infantry, I think this would make a lot of sense to do, even though I'll probably upgrade away from it in the not too distant future. It's a little bit tragic. But as I mentioned, this account's starting to look stacked, and I've got 2 infantry accounts to back up my claims as to what you ought to use, okay? I've tried lots of combos, even on this account. I don't have CJ on the main, I have it over here. But by the way, if you've made it this far into a Chisgule Gaming video, you must be getting value. And if that's true, it would mean a lot to me if you throw a like on the video and consider just smashing that subscribe button so you can get daily videos just like this one in your YouTube feed. If you're looking for more information about equipment, as I was describing earlier, or even which stat is the very best, I'll have 2 cards for you in the end screen. One will be a video right over here talking all about why it is that health is the best stat with data to prove it. The other will be up over there talking about which equipment is the highest value early game stuff to give you the most bang for your buck until eventually you make your way to legendaries.